أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept your fast, your salat, your a'mal. Don't remember us on this blessed night, my brothers and sisters, for the night before Shahr Ramadan, before the beginning of Shahr Ramadan, is a blessed night. There are many a'mal to do. There are many du'as and salat to do on this night. So don't forget us in your a'mal and our families. And please pray for those that are sick, especially those that have been afflicted by the coronavirus, and anybody affected by the coronavirus. For the riwayat say, when a mu'min prays for his believing brother or sister, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them the very same dua, just the same. So pray for them, pray for me, and all of the fellow mu'mineen and mu'minat. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala. So last day we were speaking about moonsighting, and we began with the fundamentals of moonsighting, and we said the fundamental rule of moonsighting when it comes to Islamic jurisprudence is that the moon must be seen with the naked eye for us to say that the beginning of this month is the next day or the following day. And similarly, for us to pinpoint Eid, the moon must be seen with the naked eye, for us to say that the next day, the following day, is Eid. And we said that the riwayat are very, very clear that the person must see the moon and not use other methods to say that the moon is not there but can be seen. In other words, the fact that the moon is there must be seen explicitly with the eye and not inferred with any other method. And we said that the riwayat were very clear and adamant, and you found that in many riwayat, exceeding 20 riwayat in Wasail Shia, you find that the Imams alayhimus salam used the word ar-ru'ya, sum li ru'yatih, wa aftir li ru'yatih. Fast when you see the moon, and break your fast when you see the moon. And they are adamant on this idea of ru'ya. The question is then asked, Imam, can we infer that the moon is there without actually seeing it? The Imam alayhi salam in a riwayah explicitly rejects this idea and says, do not go by what the mathematicians and astronomers tell you. See it with your own eye. We read the riwayah that said, a man writes, he says, Ya Mawlai, there are days where we don't see the moon, we don't see any sign of the moon in the sky. And then afterwards we have mathematicians and astronomers tell us, if it's not seen here, it could be seen in Egypt, it could be seen in Africa, it could be seen in other places around the world. And so we don't know what to do, Ya Mawlai. We have on one hand the moon is not showing, on another hand we have experts coming and telling us that it could be seen in other parts of the world. And so the Imam alayhi salam said, do not fast when you have doubt. When you are doubting, do not fast. This could have been in the beginning of the month, pinpointing when Shahr Ramadan is to begin. In other words, the Imam alayhi salam is telling him, do not fast the day with the intention that this is the beginning of Shahr Ramadan when you are still in a state of doubt. In other words, these different methods that were more or less presented to the people at that time, they did not give a person certainty, what we call yaqeen or itma'nan. Rather, they gave that person dhan or doubt. And the riwayat are very clear. Do not fast when you have dhan, when you have a hunch or doubt. And if you look in history, you find that these methods, as we said yesterday, my brothers and sisters, these methods were known. These methods were accurate back in the day. And these different mathematical calculations are not just, they're not from today. They're not just modern. It's not like yesterday, the day before, 50, 60, 100 years, they figured out, we can calculate when the moon shows. No, these methods, some of them date back 8,000 years before the birth of Christ, BC. Yes? It is said, as we said yesterday, that some of these calendars were found in the fields of Scotland and date back about 8,000 years before Christ. So these methods were there, and the Imams alayhimus salam rejected them. طيب. You as a thinking academic individual, you have now a question. And it's a great question. And this same question is also asked by others that just want to argue the point. But for both audiences, in a sense, or both people, both types of people will answer this question. First, we're going to lay it out, and then, inshallah, we're going to answer it together. Bi'awnillah ta'ala. The question is as follows, my brothers and sisters. If the Imams alayhimus salam were very clear about the method of pinpointing the beginning of Shahr Ramadan and Eid, very clear. And the riwayat all are generally pointing to the same idea. They're pointing to the same idea. The method is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And not just Wasa'il al-Shia, all of the other books of hadith are pinpointing to the same idea and the same method. Why is it that we still have a difference of opinion, sometimes 3 different days, as to when the beginning of Shahr Ramadan is and the end of Shahr Ramadan? As in, when I was reading these riwayat to you, my brothers and sisters, did you find any of them debatable in their potential meaning? As in, I can read a riwayah and you can say, well, this riwayah can mean this or this. And sometimes, no, the riwayah is very straightforward, very clear. These riwayat, my brothers and sisters, are very, very clear, very simple, very straight and to the point. طيب, why is there such a difference of opinion? Why do we have different opinions about when Eid is, if the riwayat are very clear? That's the first question that we want to answer. Second question, what are the different conditions? What are the different conditions for the testimony? The testimony, someone witnessing the moon. What are the different conditions for that testimony? Because sometimes, my brothers and sisters, and this has happened, you'll have someone come and say, I saw the moon. I saw the moon. But their testimony is rejected. Well, they didn't fulfill all of the conditions. What are those conditions? What are those conditions? After answering the first question, why there's a difference of opinion, let's say, okay, we scratch that off. That's not the problem. That difference of opinion is clear. We understand. We follow the rules of the specific marja, we go. But still with that, sometimes, the testimony of the person that is coming forward and saying, I saw the moon, I witnessed the moon, is rejected. Why? Are we trying to make it harder? Or do we just want people to fast an extra day? What's the reason? What's the reason? And again, brothers and sisters, I want to answer these questions in the beginning so that later on we don't have a headache. Number 1. Number 2, I want to show you guys, my brothers and sisters, how the ulama, how they think, and how the horizon of the alim, of our ulama, how their horizons are so much broader than what me and you think. Because, before we begin, because what me and you tend to think, my brothers and sisters, especially living here in the West, where it is told to us and propagated to us that, oh, you can think on a wider horizon and you can be open-minded and every idea is acceptable. So the people of here in the West, they have this idea that Westerners are more open-minded and Easterners are closed-minded. And this idea also makes its way to the ulama, that our ulama are closed-minded. They don't know how to broaden their horizons. On this issue, my brothers and sisters, you're going to see how broad the horizon of the alim truly is. And you will see, inshaAllah, when we answer the question. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The reason why there's a difference of opinion, my brothers and sisters, is not about seeing the moon or not seeing the moon. That's established. The reason is this. Let's say I saw the moon from my house. In between my house and your house, let's say there's 1 kilometer. There's 1 kilometer distance between my house and your house. I saw the moon in my house. I went on the roof of my house or outside the window. I saw the moon. I call you up and I say, Hajj or Hajjah, sister, I saw the moon from my house. Can you accept that if you went out and looked at the sky, you will also see the moon from your house? Would you accept that? As in, me telling you I saw the moon from my house. Is it the same as you going to your house, on top of your house, and also looking up? Will you also see the moon from your house? Yes. Why? Why? There's a distance between my house and your house. Why is it that when I saw the moon from my house, it's as if you saw the moon from your house, although there's a distance? You'll tell me, the distance is so small, and the angle is so minute. The difference in the angle, looking at the moon, is so minute that it's like the same thing. Seeing it from my house or your house doesn't change anything. The distance is so small that it doesn't change anything. Jameel. Good. Let's say we took that distance and tripled it. So instead of 1 kilometer, we got 3 kilometers. Does it change anything? My house is here, your house is here, and there's 3 kilometers between my house and your house. Me seeing the moon from my house, does it also mean you will see the moon from your house with that distance? Yes. Because the distance is so small. Jameel, what if we took that distance and multiplied it by 1,000, for example, or 100, for example? Me seeing it from, let's say, Windsor, Ontario, does it mean you'll see it in Edmonton? That's where I stumped you. You're like, I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. That's where the ulama differed. That's where the ulama differed. They say that you have to see the moon, and for someone else to go by what you saw, the distance has to be to a point where your sight and their sight is going to be the same. What you see in the sky and what they see in the sky is going to be the same. In other words, the patch of sky that you have and the patch of sky that they have is pretty much the same. On this, my brothers and sisters, there's a difference of opinion, and that's where the ulama have differed. Historically, the ulama, they used to say, or they used to believe in a theory called ta'addud al-ufuq. Ta'addud al-ufuq. What's ta'addud al-ufuq? First, let's look linguistically. Al-ufuq is the horizon. Ta'addud means numbered horizons, or more than one horizon. More than one horizon. In other words, the theory of multiple horizons. What does multiple horizons say? Think of the example that we gave. We said patch of sky. Your patch of sky has to be the same in essence as their patch of sky for your ru'ya, for your sight and their sight to be one. For them to say, I saw the moon, and even if you don't see the moon, you can go by what they said. Jameel, your horizon and their horizon must be the same. For you and that person, whoever that other person may be, to both consider the moon to be there, or for them to go by your sight and vice versa. So you go by their sight, although you may not see it in your respective area. The ulama historically, before, the most famous idea is that there are multiple horizons on earth. Meaning what? No, there's technically one horizon in the sense that the sun rises from the east, sets in the west. In that sense, yes. But jurisprudentially speaking, when we say multiple horizons, it's as we said, your sight and their sight is one. The historical idea is, the more famous idea is that there's multiple horizons, meaning, for Toronto and Windsor, for example, there could be one horizon. What is seen in Toronto will also be seen in Windsor. If for some reason it's not seen in Windsor, Ontario, there's like 500 kilometers between the two. If it's not seen in Windsor, Ontario, that's because there's clouds or something else not allowing you to see the moon. But if it's seen in Toronto, then for sure it could be seen in Windsor, and vice versa. It could be, if it's seen in Windsor, then it will be seen in Toronto. But that may not be the case. Between Windsor, for example, and Vancouver, where the distance between the two cities is so much that between them there could be 3 horizons. There could be 3 patches of sky in which if you look and see the moon, the place 800 kilometers away may not actually see the moon in the very same way you saw the moon. Because the patch of sky, the horizon is different. This idea, my brothers and sisters, is one that you find when you look at the book of Sayyid Sistani, for example. He believes in ta'addud al-ufuq. He believes in ta'addud al-ufuq. That's why, my brothers and sisters, pay attention. That's why you find that Sayyid Sistani, Adamallah dhillahu, especially here in southwestern Ontario, I'm not sure how it is in other parts of the world, but especially in southwestern Ontario where the moon is not usually seen. That's why you see that Sayyid Sistani is usually the last one for Eid. Not because Sayyid Sistani is making it hard on us, no, but because the radius, that circle, in which if you see the moon, the other people can break their fast in accordance to what you saw, that radius is so small. That radius is so small, making the chances of seeing the moon small. That's why there's that difference of opinion. On this, my brothers and sisters, on this idea of seeing the moon and someone else going by what you saw, there's a riwayah. It's not the ulama are just taking this just from logic. No, there's a riwayah as well. Not necessarily, by the way, please keep this in mind, not necessarily going towards one theory over the other, but just the idea of seeing the moon in different places and going by each other's witness or testimony is in the riwayat. So for example, if you go to, as we went to the other day, Wasail al-Shia, here's the riwayah. It is said, عن عبد الرحمن ابن أبي عبد الرحمن, one of the narrators, قال سألت أبا عبد الله, he says, I asked Imam al-Sadiq عليه السلام عن هلال شهر رمضان يغم علينا في 29 من شعبان. He said, on the 29th day, Ya Imam, we don't necessarily see the moon. We can't see the moon. What do we do? فقال لا تصم إلا أن تراه. Don't fast except if you see it. طيب, okay. فإن شهد أهل بلد آخر فأقضه. If people from another city testify that they saw it, then redo that day because you missed it. In other words, right now is, let's say, the 29th of Sha'ban. Tomorrow, Shahr Ramadan or not, you look up and you don't see the moon. You have to consider tomorrow the 30th of Sha'ban. Jameel, the Imam alayhi salam is saying, if you don't see it, fast. Later on, if you have, back then they didn't have communication, so it would have taken weeks or maybe days for people from other cities to tell nearby cities that we saw the moon. If you get a testimony from someone from another city, and that testimony is accepted as per the conditions that we're going to speak about, then you can break your fast, or you will consider that day Shahr Ramadan according to their testimony. So this idea is there in the riwayat. So it's not just a logical idea, it's in the riwayat. Jameel. Sayyid Sistani believes in ta'addud al-ufuq. But you find that today, my brothers and sisters, the idea that Sayyid Sistani sort of bases his fatwa on, and that is ta'addud al-ufuq, is an exception. Or it's more like a rarity. It's a minority. He's with the minority today. So what we just said, historically, the most famous idea was ta'addud al-ufuq. Why is it that Sayyid Sistani, maybe a couple other maraja today, a couple other ulama today believe in ta'addud al-ufuq, and then there's this idea of two cities having the same night, etc., where this new idea come from? Sayyid al-Khu'i rahmatullah alayh, he took what was famously known and refuted it. What do I mean? Sayyid al-Khu'i came with this new theory. Not new, I would say he more or less took this theory and exploded it in a sense. And subhanAllah, Arabs explosion. He more or less took this theory and made it famous. And ingrained it in the mind of the ulama to the point where the majority of scholars today believe in what Sayyid al-Khu'i said, and more or less put aside what was famously known. Sayyid Sistani is still with what was famously known and understood and accepted, which was ta'addud al-ufuq. Sayyid al-Khu'i refuted this idea. What did Sayyid al-Khu'i say? Sayyid al-Khu'i came and said, I'm not going to give you the theory behind it, more or less. Sayyid al-Khu'i said, the moon is one moon. The horizon is one horizon. The moon is one moon, the horizon is one horizon, and therefore, with other, for other reasons I'm not going to get into, therefore, there is one horizon, there is one large horizon in the night. In the one night, there is one large horizon. So if we have two cities that have at least some of the night at the same time, in which one may be in the beginning of the night and another may be at the end of the night, but they still overlap at the time of night, then one testimony is going to be accepted in the other city. Because there is one horizon for the entire night. Keep that in mind. Listen, there's one horizon for the entire night. And so, if people in London, England saw the moon, the people in Toronto and Windsor can break their fast for Eid, or consider in the next day Shahr Ramadan. Do you see the logic here, my brothers and sisters? Taban, for sure. You go by what your marja says. So you follow Sayyid Sistani and go by what Sayyid Sistani says. I'm not going to one idea over another, or I'm not accepting one theory over another. That's not my place. But what I'm trying to do, my brothers and sisters, is help us understand why the difference of opinion is there. Okay? So Sayyid al-Khou'i said, if there's one city that overlaps in its night with another city, even if one is in the beginning and one is in the end of the night, their testimony is one. Their night is one and their sky is one. The patch of sky for both is one and the same. One and the same. This idea is called Wahdatul Ufuq. The idea was sort of there. They say Shaykh al-Tusi may have had a similar idea, and other such ulama may have had a similar idea, but Sayyid al-Khou'i rahmatullah alayhi, as like many of his other theories, he ingrained this theory and made this theory the famously known and understood and accepted idea amongst the ulama. And so you find the ulama of today, the grandest of maraja, the most famous of maraja, accept this idea. Now, some of them accept the premise, but have a little bit of a difference of opinion with the Sayyid, with Sayyid al-Khou'i. So they accept the premise of Wahdatul Ufuq, that there's one horizon for the night. But there's a little bit of a difference. For example, Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim, which is one of the grand scholars of today, the grand muraja of today, Najaf, he comes and he says that this idea is accepted, yes. But there's a difference between the Western hemisphere of the world and the Eastern hemisphere of the world. The Eastern hemisphere of the world can only take from the countries on the Eastern hemisphere of the world. So for example, if it is seen in Egypt, then Lebanon can break their fast. If it's seen in Lebanon, then India can break its fast, for example, right? But if, let's say, Lebanon broke its fast, Toronto can't break its fast. If Lebanon saw the moon, Toronto can't go by their testimony. Sayyid al-Hakim differentiates between the Eastern hemisphere and the Western hemisphere. For example, Shaykh al-Khurasani, Shaykh Wahid al-Khurasani in Qom, may Allah bless him and prolong his life. He comes and says, I accept what Sayyid al-Khou'i says, but the two countries must overlap in most of the night, not just a part of the night. Shaykh Bashir al-Najafi, he comes and he says, if it's seen in one country of the world, the entire world has Eid. So they accept the idea generally, but they differ in opinion just a little bit. Brothers and sisters, what was famously known was refuted by Sayyid al-Khou'i altogether. The horizons of the ulama and how they think and how broad their thinking is, and the spectrum of how they think is much, much more vast than what we think. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Jameel. So this is where the difference of opinion sprouts from. This is where the difference of opinion comes from. طيب. What are the conditions for the testimony to be accepted? What is the condition or the conditions for the testimony to be accepted? What are those conditions? There are a few. But the most important one is as follows. Sayyid Sistani, or as per his fatwa in a book called Fiqh al-Muyassar. Whoever can read Arabic, I highly suggest this book. Al-Fiqh al-Muyassar. Very good book, concise, straight to the point. He says that the the moon itself, the testimony of seeing the moon is accepted by, or can be accepted by an individual if these conditions are met. Number one, the testimony is by two just witnesses. Two just witnesses. What do we mean by just? Brothers and sisters, when it says just in fiqh and jurisprudence, it means that these people, this individual does the wajib and leaves the haram. That's what we mean by just. So in other words, just with themselves and just with God. They do the wajib and they leave the haram. And if they were to fall in haram, they repent. This is just. It's to be seen by two just witnesses. And their testimony must match 100% to each other. So if one says, I saw it in the east, and the other one says, I saw it in the west, they don't match. Their testimony is not taken. And other such conditions. Jami. Sayyid Sistani says, شهادة رجلين عادلين بالرؤية وتعتبر فيها وحدة المشهود به. Two just witnesses. And as a condition, their testimony must be the same exact thing. فلو ادعى أحدهما الرؤية في طرف وادعى الآخر رؤيته في طرف آخر لم يثبت الهلال بذلك. If one testifies that he saw it in one direction and the other in another direction, although they are both adil, both just, their testimony is not taken. كما يعتبر فيها عدم العلم أو الاطمئنان باشتباههما وعدم وجود معارض لشهادتهما. Also, there must be no knowledge that they're wrong. In other words, if we have 60 just witnesses come and testify on the 27th of Shahr Ramadan that they saw the moon, we are certain that they couldn't have seen the moon. Even if there was 100 witnesses, they couldn't have seen the moon. We're sure they couldn't have seen the moon because it's the 27th of Shahr Ramadan. The moon can only be seen on the 29th or 30th. Or there cannot be a testimony that goes against their testimony. Let's say we have two just witnesses come to the alim. They say, Ya Sayyid, Ya Shaykh, we both saw the moon in the east. Both of us were standing and we saw the moon in the east. Then we have another testimony of 2 or 4 or 5, another group of people, 2 people come in and we say, no, we saw the moon in the west. Or they say, we testify, we didn't even see the moon. At that point in time, the testimony may be rejected. Why? Because in the riwayat it says this: if one person sees it, then 2 people saw it. And if 2 people saw it, then 100 people saw it. It makes no sense for us to have 2 just witnesses to tell us that it was seen in such and such direction. And then we have another testimony come and say, no, we saw it in such and such a direction. No. The testimonies have to be one and the same. Jamil. So we said 2 just witnesses, and their testimony must be one and the same. And there cannot be anything standing in their way to cancel the testimony in itself. Another method that we use and we can depend on is what we call ash-shaya'. What's ash-shaya'? Ash-shaya' is for it to be commonly known and understood and accepted within a city that the moon was seen. You may not have someone come and testify in front of you, but you have the overwhelming majority of the city. The overwhelming majority of the city are getting ready for Eid, for example, getting ready for Shahr Ramadan, for example, and they're going by someone else's testimony of seeing the moon, but you yourself didn't actually see it. Rather, you're going by what you see in the outside world, or what you see around you. This is what we call a shaya'. The news goes from person to person, and it's accepted from person to person, even the scholars of the city, to the point where you are certain that it was actually seen by one of the mu'mineen of the city, and that their testimony was accepted. This is what we call a shaya'. What is similar to shaya' or could be the testimony itself, regardless of which category it falls under, is the official announcement that we get from the Council of Scholars that is sent to our phones, and pretty much every month they have an announcement in which they write the announcement, they write a letter telling the mu'mineen that it was seen, or if it was not seen, when is the first day, when is Eid, etc., etc. You can go by that. You can go by that because the ulama, they go by testimony. But I want to just make something very, very clear, and more or less, I want to make you aware of a point, please. When the Council of Ulama, they make their announcement is accepted, yes. But read the words carefully. What do I mean by this? Just a few days ago, there was an announcement that was made by the council, and it said there's an overwhelming possibility that Shahr Ramadan is Saturday. Many people just graze over that idea of overwhelming possibility. They see Saturday bolded, so they say, okay, it's Saturday. No, we don't do that. In other words, we don't say it's Saturday, or it is for sure this day, 4 or 5 days before. We don't do that. Okay? There has to be a ru'ya, there has to be a sight, a testimony the night before. That's how we go. For us to say it's for sure this day or that day. The ulama of the council, they said there's an overwhelming possibility that it is Saturday, and the Saturday was bolded. Many people don't read the words. They just see Saturday bolded, they think, okay, khalas, that's it. No. If it's 4 or 5 days before, there's no way the council is going to tell you that this is the actual day of Shahr Ramadan. They won't do that. Okay? Very, very rare case, if not at all. They'll never ever do such a thing. Okay? Read the words carefully, my brothers and sisters. Don't just see the bolded words and then go from there, because the fine print, as they say, plays a huge role in this issue. Jazakumullah khair. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this little from us, to make us from those who followed in the footsteps of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, to make us from those who accept the opinions and the research, the result of the research of the ulama alayhim ridwanullah, to make us from those who truly, truly, truly gain in this blessed month, and to lastly make us from the supporters of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. May Allah hasten his reappearance. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin. Allahumma salli.